What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Framework, another edition of The Lion and the Physique. With me, as always, my good friend Todd. What's up, man?
What's up, Bri? Hey, everybody.
So literally 48 hours, almost to the exact moment, off the OCB stage. This was the Garden State Classic, correct?
Yes, it was.
You want to share how you did, how you placed?
Sure. So I competed in men's bodybuilding, and I decided to compete in the Open and the Masters. And Open can be kind of hit or miss, depending on who shows up, whatever. Sometimes you get, guys that are all similar size and everything, so everyone's got a chance. And sometimes you get someone walking through the door. It's like, holy cow, where'd they find this guy at? Well, that's how this show went. Holy cow, where'd they find this guy at? So I took fifth. I thought, it's that old saying in, bodybuilding, you think you probably should have gotten higher than what you wanted to and everything. And I think I could have made a case for one or two jumps above me, but it's not my choice. It's the judge's choice at the end of the day. And
You know
then in
what?
the Masters, yeah, go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
I just want to jump in, right? And then we'll
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about Masters. Because I just as a, as your friend and as a fan and watching, of bodybuilding, and I try to give, I put myself in the perspective of the fan when we're talking about, right, the IFBB level, when we're talking about the Arnold Classics of the world and the, the Mr. Olympias. But when I watch a lot of the local OCB shows,
Mhm.
I put myself in the from the perspective of both a judge and a competitor. I mean, I've never judged a bodybuilding show. I don't want to say
Mhm.
that I am a judge, but you judge it a little differently because obviously the criteria is different, and you've been on that stage, right?
Right.
Um, wow. I mean, frustration for you is an understatement because time and time again, we are bringing, and I can say we because it's happened to the both of us, so I don't just want to put it all on you. Um, so many times have we stepped on an OCB stage specifically, and they don't care your height or your weight. They put everybody up there against each other.
Mhm.
How are you at 155, 156, all the way up to maybe 160 pounds, right? What was your stage weight, if you don't mind me asking?
156 and some change, like point
Okay.
0.4, point 0.6, something like that.
Looking at the competitors that you stood next to, one guy looked like he was about 6'3",
Hmm.
probably weighed about 190 pounds.
Hmm.
Another guy was about your height, looked like he weighed about 210.
Yep. Yeah, actually,
How
the one guy actually admitted to someone else that he was over 200, and then one of the other guys was about one in the 190s above me, that placed higher than me.
Where is the logic? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and I'm following along and I'm, talking to you for updates because I couldn't be at the show.
Hmm.
And I'm like looking at these posts that the promoters are putting up. And granted, it's not just this particular show. It's
Hmm.
it's many shows that we follow. Like you and I had mentioned on an earlier episode. It's like they have the OCB Midwest, the OCB Tampa, the OCB New Jersey. So it's kind of like franchised, right? Like all these
Hmm.
promoters don't travel the way that they do, kind of on the pro level. But man, I mean, you're standing there, and I don't mean this with any disrespect. It's like you're standing next to freaks. It's
Yes.
like here you are bringing the absolute best package you could, the most conditioned. Your legs look better than I've ever seen it on an OCB stage. I couldn't wait to tell you that. The
Right.
best legs that you've ever had. A little undersized in the upper body, all these things that you and I have already spoke about. You know my critiques, both as a friend and a fan of bodybuilding. But dude, you fucking brought it, man, and we knew you were gonna bring it. And it's so unfortunate that you have to stand next to guys almost a half a foot taller than you
Hmm.
and literally 50 pounds heavier just because they're trying to fill classes and fill a stage. What an utter disappointment. Just
Yeah.
that show was overall.
It really makes you at times. I'm sure you felt this way too, saying, why do I even bother doing this anymore? I'm going to pay all this money, invest all this time, make all these sacrifices for my friends, family, and everything else that I could be doing with more fun things to go have this happen. And just like I do, we go and give it our all. We're not just, you see people there, and I don't want to put anybody down, but I've seen people at shows, I'm sure you have too, that they just said, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. Give me like 3 weeks. And they don't look like anything. And they get on stage and they do their little thing and they come in last, and then that's it for them. They just said that
Clout,
I got on
clout
stage.
chasers.
Versus we're basically killing ourselves to get on stage, and then things like this happen. It's just so discouraging. It's like, why do I even bother trying at this rate?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that wasn't, I wasn't trying to tell you that you're wasting your time, in any means.
No,
And
no, no.
but I know what you're saying because
Well,
there are people.
it
Go ahead.
it's like an example of this, right? It's like I used to live in Vegas, and would you want to go to a casino and gamble at a certain casino if every time you went there, you knew the dealer had the game rigged and there's no way you could win? Maybe once in a while you might win something, but you ain't gonna win all the time. Every time you go in there, would you go to that casino? I guarantee you wouldn't.
Never, never, never. It is discouraging, but to play devil's advocate for you, it is the sport.
Yeah.
We're getting up on stage, letting complete strangers tell us how much work we put in,
Hmm.
how we look,
Hmm.
if it really paid off. I mean, listen, in not so many words are they telling us, hey, you put in the work or you didn't. But at the end of the day, it wasn't about how much cardio we did. It wasn't about how hard we trained. It wasn't about, well, my shoulders were the best shoulders on the stage. Well, maybe it wasn't the best package, right? Maybe you had the best legs on the stage, but somebody else had a better back. That happens in bodybuilding. Um, to your point, I feel like a lot of people don't think that's the case, right? You say
Hmm.
people prep for 3-4 weeks and just show up, right? I call them cloud chasers. They're looking for some likes on Instagram so that they can post their grueling cardio sessions and their, oh, my boring chicken and rice, and then to get on stage, take 6 out of 7 and say, what a journey, oh, what a great experience. It's like, okay, listen, at the end of the day, we all want the nice pictures. We all want to share our journeys, on Instagram and stuff like that. We're all guilty. I don't want to say we're guilty of it, but we're all part of the same niche group. We all do the same thing. But you're right. Some of us are putting 20 weeks in.
Hmm.
Some of us are really going through it mentally. I know a handful of people, both NPC and OCB, who are currently in prep now that I talk to almost daily. They're like, man, I've been doing this for 8, 12, 15, X amount of weeks, and it's grueling, man. And I tell the people exactly what you just said is, hey, well, when you show up on show day, there's going to be people there who put in no work.
Hmm.
So all you can do is show up at your best, and hopefully you beat those people who aren't taking it as seriously. But it's not our decision to make. Granted, we look at the lineup that you had just competed with. I didn't think it was a strong lineup. It was unfortunate that you placed where you did because, as your friend and as a spectator, definitely could have seen you in a top three. I saw 2, 3 guys there that were freaks. Those 200 plus guys,
Hmm.
and the guys that you beat, you deserve to beat, no question. Um, it's a shame that there are people. It's almost a shame that there are people like us, right? That devote so much of it, that make so much of the sacrifice only for, I don't want to make excuses to say like genetically gifted people and stuff like that, but some of those guys could have been prepping, 12, 15, 18, 20 weeks with the expectation of, I'm going up against other heavyweights.
Hmm.
I need to be 208 because the guys I'm going to be standing next to are going to be between 206 and 209. And it's just with the OCB, that's never been the case.
No. My
How
first,
are we? Go
we
ahead.
were in Atlantic City. I did, was it the novice class? And the one guy that won it was like 240 something pounds. He had no definition. He was just all size. I'm like, what the heck is this? It looked like a joke to me standing next to this guy. I'm like, this is a joke. This got to be. It's why I like sports like mixed martial arts and UFC for the fact that they actually put weight classes in because they understand that it's a huge competitive advantage 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds over your opponent, let alone using force against them at those weight differences and everything. We're just doing this for posing. They're actually throwing punches and kicks at those weights or whatever. So it's just, at least those sports get it, like the difference and why you have to separate people for that reason. Now, if you want to do the overall, like the lightweight here won it and the heavyweight won it, and who's the overall winner, that's totally different. But like to do it like everyone get together is like I don't understand. Whereas NPC does understand that and splits it all up.
Couldn't agree more. I did this show. I did the exact same show last year, and my same concerns was it was a poor venue, the lighting was bad, Um, I really think that it's such a shame to see these people put in so much of their time and sacrifice so much for those putting on the show to underdeliver.
Hmm.
You and I have talked a million times. I mentioned this on this podcast. There's maybe 3 or 4 shows for us out of, let's say, 10, right? From New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Jersey, down to Maryland. There's maybe only 3 or 4 shows that, man, they get it right every year. Like
Hmm.
lighting, the stage, the amount of time you have up there. The fact that you were telling me, and I don't know if they ended up going through this because I know they changed some things on you guys last minute. You were telling me you didn't know if you were going to get, a full routine, that you were going to go out there and hit 3, 4 poses and walk off stage. Was that the case, or did you get a full routine?
We did get full routines. Yeah, they told us last minute you get full routines and everything. They said there would be no competitors meeting. Then they said there was. Then I show up for the competitors meeting at 9, and there's nobody there except for me. I order tickets for my wife. My wife gets to the venue. They tell her right to her face, "I'm here to pick up a ticket for Todd Lyons." They look at her and said, "Don't have it." And so I have to go out while I'm warming up to get ready to go out to go show this lady proof that I paid for a ticket for my wife. And it was just like one thing after the next. I'm just like, I just want to get out of here at this point.
Dude, at the end of the day, you put in the work.
Hmm.
You showed up to a venue that was subpar with horrific lighting, and you know the lineup was what it was. You
Hmm.
couldn't determine who was in your class. We never can.
Right.
To my point, I like I was saying, I did the same show last year, and all the same issues were present.
Hmm.
And you know what? We do our best.
Right.
I don't think that 5th place at that show, at that venue, on that date, with that lighting and that judging panel speaks to your potential as a bodybuilder. I'm
Hmm.
saying that both as a friend and as somebody who has been following this sport for 15 years. None of what happened, I say what happened, right? Dude, 5th place is still good, right? Like
Hmm.
to be top 5 at that show, dude, my hat's off to you. And I apologize, I cut you off earlier. How'd you place in the Masters?
First in the Masters.
There it is, brother. Like, and so well deserved. None of that, none of what happened this weekend, with the exception of your 1st place, speaks to your potential as a bodybuilder, both on that day and moving forward. Granted, not to, to backtrack on my own words, or to, contradict myself. You're the one who put in the cardio time. You're the one who put in the training.
Hmm.
You're the one who knew coming out of last year's show what you had to do to be better. And you did all those things. Like I said, your legs just stood out. I mean, you hit one of the pictures I saw, I believe it was an ab and thigh and a most muscular, like a hands on hips. And I'm like, bro, these guys' legs are the best ones on stage. Um,
Thank you.
I didn't end up seeing the results. I have a feeling I know who ended up winning the Open in your class, but you had them beat in legs. Unfortunately, it just came down to who's the largest body on this
Yeah.
stage, which should never be the case. But again, I'm not a judge. I wasn't there on the judging panel, so it is what it is. But none of that, dude, speaks to your potential both on that day and future as a bodybuilder.
Well, what was nice was that the head judge actually during my Masters one actually acknowledged like the way I look and the package I brought, my age and everything, and like how well I am and how good I've done at these shows or whatever, and coming up through it. So he actually like gave me a shout out in front of everybody, which I really appreciated everything. He didn't have to do that, but I greatly appreciate that he did do that for me because, like I said, I damn near killed myself for this one, and to just have that, it's like, what do I have to do? Like, I mean, maybe try different regions of the country. Maybe this isn't the region of the country for me. I should just venture out to a different region and try myself across the US or whatever.
So I'm glad you transitioned that. You and I have spoke about, jokingly about doing these, OCB tours, right? And you have been so successful with it, of doing either back-to-back shows or 3 shows. I believe a couple years ago you did like one in May, one in June, one in July, something like that. I
Oh,
apologize
first year,
if I'm
I did
misquoting.
I did
Uh,
4. I did 4 in the first year.
yeah, see, like for me, man, I could do that and get again, I don't mean to make it personal, but it was your weekend, dude. This episode is it's all about you. I kind of want that, man. It's like I've beaten, to a bloody pulp the fact that I've wanted to do the Connecticut show the first weekend in April. I can't do that because I will be going to WrestleMania, which I
Oh,
already had tickets for. So that's totally off the table. It won't affect prep. I'll still be bringing my diet food and all that stuff. But regardless, dude. I mean, I'm prepared to venture down to Maryland. I'm
mm,
I'm prepared to venture out to Virginia, maybe as far as Virginia. And I know that's pushing the envelope. There's shows in Maine that are like
mm,
6-7 hours away.
yeah.
Massachusetts, like, maybe you're right. Maybe the OCB New Jersey just isn't the organization or the class or the, I don't know what you want to call it, that we should be competing and moving forward. Listen, if there's a place on an OCB stage for Todd in 2025, which there is, hey, 2024 is, we still got plenty of time, brother. Every time we talk, I'm going to try to convince you on stage with me again. Um, it's that, man, like, dude, jump to another stage. I've made a point to say, like, dude, I look at stage photos of people who have won past shows and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, there's shows in Ohio that I could bring my family to for like a long weekend. Why am I
Hmm.
not making the most of this? Because if you do step on a stage that screws you the way you got screwed this weekend with the open classes, listen, what a vague term to the OCB world, open, because it's all comers. Like you said, you pay to show up, they're just going to put you on that stage,
Hmm.
regardless of your height and weight, which is such a shame. But there's these shows, man. Harrisburg, PA is, I know, relatively close to Hershey. There's a good chance that I may bring my wife and my son out there, stay the Friday into Saturday, do the show Saturday, and spend another night, doing Hershey Park or something.
Hmm.
There's no reason that we can't commit ourselves to these shows in other places of the country. We're not tied to OCB New Jersey or the Big Apple or Connecticut. And if you feel like, hey, every show that I've kind of done has been about the same presentation, the same
Hmm.
lighting, the same judging panel. Like, am I really? Is this the? I don't want to say make it easier for you, but who knows? Maybe jumping into another show elsewhere is going to be beneficial.
Right. I agree. I agree. I think it just might be maybe a good path to go down or whatever, just to have some new eyes look at you and everything. Because I think not saying it's a bad thing or whatever, but I think it's the same eyes and the same pool that kind of stays in the same air and does the same shows and everything like that. And I think people like you and me need to branch out to other areas, and maybe if we're not as thought of as like in this area, maybe someone else could appreciate us more and realize like, hey, this guy or Ryan or whatever is they're the shit or whatever. They should be winning these things and everything, and we're going to reward them for such. Maybe someone else can see it better than what we've been shown as in these venues and competitions.
Yeah, every judging panel is going to look for something different. And I will say, in favor of the OCB, it's usually the day of the show, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to look at this lineup, and maybe it's a leaner lineup, maybe it's a lot of conditioned guys, so condition is going to be first and foremost. Maybe it's all guys with blown out legs, just massive backs, and it's like, okay, this is really going to be the deciding factor, is the back to the legs, so on and so forth. So I know we've seen that with OCB New Jersey shows, is kind of who's there on the day of the show will be kind of how they've judged things.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Conqueror in Maryland is a very popular show, and their team always puts on such an amazing show. Connecticut, again, I've kind of abused that. The Big Apple, I did the Big Apple a couple of years ago.
Mm.
I know that's a great show, and they always put on,
Is that Manhattan or is that in a different borough?
man, I believe it's Manhattan. Um,
Not Staten Island or Queens or Brooklyn or the Bronx.
I'd have to double check,
Okay.
because they've moved it around every year. It
Oh,
seems to be like a
okay.
different venue.
Okay.
The same promoter who does Connecticut does the Big Apple, and I believe they just introduced. Um, I think it's like a 9/11 memorial show, like something they do like the first or second weekend of September. Same promoter. They have a troops division, I believe. Again, this is going, my memory's going back about a year or two, but um, stuff like that, man. It's just like little things that you're like, gives you the opportunity to be on stage, gives you the opportunity to present yourself in the best venue with the best lighting, the best stages, with a great panel of judges, versus paying however much we pay, dedicating as much time as we dedicate to get on stage in an elementary school or cafeteria stage. Like, what are we doing? Um, so before we wrap this up, dude,
Uh-huh.
there's a handful of shows that I still want to do that I still have in mind between now and July. You and I will talk about those more offline and maybe more as we do these episodes getting closer and closer. So still a little over 8 weeks out from show number one anyway. Could be 7 if we decide to go down to the Conqueror in Baltimore. That's
All
still
right.
on the table. So what's next for Todd? Are we packing it in? Are we looking later in the year? Kind of what's to
Um,
come?
I got to shut it down for a bit. This was pretty grueling, and as you saw the results of that gruelingness that I put myself through to get to where I'm at. And to be fair to I'm recently married and everything like that. To be fair to her and even to my own body to give it a break, because I mean I've been going hard to this since uh, I started prepping to compete back in 2019 is when I started, and I would have been ready for 2020, but then the whole damn COVID thing happened. So 2021 was when I with you and me when we finally got on stage in Atlantic City was my first show. So I've been competing, 7 shows in since then. So I think I need a bit of a break, let my strength come back. Normally I sit around like 180s, 190s, and here I am in the 150s and 160s all the time. And my body's just like, we got to get our strength back. We got to put some size on. So if anything, I got to put size back on my frame and then to grow, to get bigger and then go from there.
There you go, dude. I think that's a great idea. I hope, and I know, but I just hope for anybody coming out of a show that maybe didn't place as well as they wanted to,
Mhm.
learn from those experiences, see what beat you, see what kept you out of. In your case, you were fifth, right? See what kept you out of that fourth, third, second place. Dude, congratulations on the master win. So well deserved.
Thank you.
But for anybody coming out of the open, divisions, looking at who beat you, learn from those experiences, see what you need to grow and what to build on. In your instance, you want to come back in a little fuller, a little larger, to the
Mhm.
stage next time. And because obviously that's what they've been judging you on, right? So that's
Right.
definitely, hopefully you came in, this time 157, 158, hopefully next time you're 163, 164, and
Yeah.
it's 6 to 8 pounds of mass. Me, I want to be grainier. I want to be more conditioned. I can definitely get the weight down and I maintain this level of fullness and size, but I just want to be fucking hard as nails, dude. So that's the goal this time around. So
All
we're
right.
pacing. We're
You
pacing.
got it. Be ready. And then you can tell me
Yeah.
all about your show.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's so funny, Atlantic City was your first show because what a great venue, what a great weekend, that was. And we always reminisce on that show. Because at least for me, I feel like that was our best package that we've brought. But
Uh-huh.
you're taking the venue, the weekend itself, like walking out of our hotel rooms and going downstairs and just like walking the casino floor versus sitting in your hotel in, God only knows the middle of nowhere in New Jersey, just
Yep.
having to get in your car and drive 20 minutes to the show the next day. Um, so you just kind of set yourself up, man. Atlantic City was such an awesome experience, and then you've just had to. It's all gone downhill from there. All right, Todd. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. And to everybody, thank you as always for stopping by the framework.
Take care.